Hello and welcome to Dario's Comic School, and today we will talk about a myth and we will demystify a certain topic. Let me see if I'm on camera the right way. Today we will talk about making comics or making it in comics when you're young. And there is a certain myth, and the myth goes like this. I don't know, I think somebody said that Jim Lee even said it. I don't know, like, I don't believe gossip, and I don't know, sometimes you can say stuff and some years later, you know, that you said something moronic and that you wouldn't say it in the now because you've gotten wiser. But this saying goes kind of like this, that if you haven't made it at a certain age in comics, you will likely never make it. I think, I'm not accusing him, but I think I read a quote, and it might be wrong, it might be right, that he said it, and maybe he was himself young, but the quote is like, Jim Lee said that if you're not made it like when you're 20 or something in comics, you're too old or too far gone. It's not possible to break into comics, to make comics, to be relevant or at the top. I'm now 37. In January, in a month, I will be 38. And I have a couple of viewers that might be older, a couple of viewers that are younger. And the thing is this, that also from another comic artist, like a young comic artist in his early 20s, he said the same. He said like, man, I love when people find their style so young, or when they make their comics so young, and that's the age you have to do it, and all of that bullshit. So this might be Jim Lee made it when he was young. So if you're not young, you cannot make it in comics. I think that's wrong. And we have Herman Huppan. I'm watching at my screen, and I have here comics, because here I have a Jim Lee underneath this, like John Romita Jr., but also Adam Kubert, Andy Kubert, and here we have Walter Simonson, which is drawing, even in his old age, amazing comics, like Ragnarok is great stuff. And then we have here Mike Mignola, with his Dracula, which stayed relevant early on, maybe not one of the hottest, and now one of the hottest. So Jim Lee started out like as a star, and I don't know, he might still be a star, but he's not as relevant for me. I will tell you why. And Mike Mignola, he holds up really well, and everything he did aged like fine wine. And so we will take later a look at Herman Huppan and who he is, or maybe I should say it right now. He's a Belgian artist, and let me see here in his Wikipedia. He started out born in 1938. He was what did he work? He worked as interior designer or something like that. And then at the age at 26, 29, he made his first comic. And then at the age, if I see this right, of 39, he published his first big comic, which is Jeremiah. Jeremiah is a comic about a post-apocalyptic setting, like The Walking Dead, but it's just that young people, there are only young people. Some virus kills all the old people or at a certain age, and so society breaks down, there are only young people surviving, and then it's Lord of the Flies in a post-apocalyptic setting. And his drawings are amazing. I will go into his drawings and how Jim Lee made his drawings work, and how Herman Huppan made his drawings work, and how you can make your drawings work. And then after he published Jeremiah, it was picked up by the how do you call it? FX, science fiction television, made a 2-season TV show out of it, starring Luke Perry, written by J. Michael Straczynski, who wrote Babylon 5 and other amazing stuff. So this is great stuff. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. It's for a guy who started in his late 30s or late 20s, or maybe had always pursued comics but never broke in, at least not in his early age. And then I guess the guy drew till he died. I don't see it right now here, but till maybe the guy is still alive. Well, I guess he's still running. Born 1938 and winning awards 2019 still. And his drawings are great. I will show him. So it's maybe I'm making this video also to demystify that it's never too late to start, and not only to start but also to outshine what was before you. I feel it in life that I don't want to say I was dealt a bad hand, but it was definitely always difficult, health-wise, money-wise, family-wise, but I also had people who supported me, my mother, my sister, peers, friends, schools, cities, states, fans from overseas. So you see, it's a kind of balance, but at a certain age people ask, okay, why don't you settle down? Shouldn't you? Or should you should do this, you shouldn't do that. But every time you play the should or shouldn't game, you lose, because you're trying to mold yourself into a role which you cannot sustain, and sooner or later something will break. But if you work from intrinsic motivation, you will go further, longer, better, and yeah, that's so far. So let's look at my page. What do I have here? Like, Jim Lee made it young, and there are a bunch of artists who made it really young. We have Jim Lee, Joe Madureira, and maybe Rob Liefeld, and all this stuff, and maybe Todd McFarlane, who had his 300 issue Spawn. Who gives a shit? I mean, is it any good? Is it any good, or is it a piece of shit? I mean, even Spawn 1 and 2 isn't good. I mean, it's a classic, I love it, but is it any good? Is it relevant? I mean, it is cool that he made it, and if you had a good time reading it, it's great. And I don't want to shit all over it, because, and that's the important point, I put myself now in your shoes, and I'm in your shoes too. Because, like, we're looking at artists that produced body of work, got paid, had a certain fame, delivered cool artwork, and you might wondering, how can I do that? So in the old days, I guess you started making comics, or you created good artwork, and then you sent this in to some publishers, to Marvel or DC, and they picked their talent. Oh, Greg Capullo is great. We will come to Greg Capullo in a second. And they picked their talent, and they put them on books, they paid them, and everybody knew, okay, this is my shot, I can't blow it, I have to bring my A game. I have to put everything I have to stay on these books. Today, I don't know, no longer aspire to work for Marvel or DC because I just simply don't read what they publish. So the game has changed. I guess the game has shifted probably to having a YouTube channel, a TikTok, a Instagram page, to be somewhat an entity on the internet. Or maybe if you can find a good publisher and give that publisher your good artwork, and then, yeah, have a blast. But if you're not finding a publisher, this is how you can make it. So, thesis number 1, you have to make it young or you don't make it. I think that's bullshit. Because is Jim Lee still drawing? Is he drawing quality work? I mean, he always delivers quality work, and we'll talk in a second about his work ethics, which I think are great. But I think Mike Mignola is still working a long and great body of work. Intrinsic Factor. Is Rob Liefeld still doing work? Is Joe Madureira shifted to games, which is his intrinsic motivation now, and that's okay because artists develop over time. If you can see here, it's not so much the inks, it's more painting pots, and behind me painting, like I'm kind of shifting to something different or evolving. I don't want to say I feel comics is becoming again relevant, but I think that maybe in the future I will ink and paint them myself. But yeah, let's talk about maybe how Jim Lee did it and how you can do it. I guess Jim Lee has the background of being probably Korean or something, South Korean, or I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. And so born in the USA or immigrated into the USA. And I think his parents probably thought, okay, Jim, you gotta be a doctor. I think they said, I don't know, there's a documentary about Image or the Image comics. And I think he said, the parents said, okay, you're gonna become a lawyer or a doctor. And he said, can I try this comic thing? And so I think everything he had, he put on the line, and he put in the hours, and he learned what he could. And we will come in a second how these people all learned, because this is important. If you can understand how they learned, and how they made their comics, you can make it yourself that way. And I think there's probably no other way, because like when I'm looking up Herman Huppan's pictures, or when I'm looking up Jim Lee, or when I'm looking up Mike Mignola, I'm seeing the artists that came before them, or contemporary artists. That means that Jim Lee definitely developed a style for himself. Mike Mignola developed a style for himself. Herman Huppan developed a style for themselves. But I think they learned, I even might say copied, stole from everybody who came before them, and everybody they liked. So they soaked up everything. Like if they liked Hugo Pratt, they started drawing like Hugo Pratt. If they started liked Michael Golden, they started to implement things from Michael Golden. If Joe Madureira saw Jim Lee and the Capcom style, he combined them and took that as clay for his own style. So I think your style will naturally develop, but I think you will take parts which you can use or work with, and then implement it into your own style. Same with the guitar. I think, yeah, you have pieces you want to work with. You find out what you can do and what you cannot do. Okay, and yeah, Jim Lee took the work ethic, and I think he did what needed to be done. And there's a 2 or 3 step process. He saw, okay, there are people drawing comics. Number 1, I can draw. I want to draw. I like stories. I like comics. That might be a career path. Things again have a bit changed now in 2022, but it's still possible because like on YouTube I see your boy Zach and other people, they make a comic, they make a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, people buy it and he sells. It's not as simple as that because he has a trusted fan base. I guess, hear me out. Like if you're doing this alone, the process could be this. You put work into it, you deliver your best stuff, you make a comic, you make a YouTube channel, you put it on Indiegogo and you say, this is my comic, please buy it. And no one will buy it, no one will read it, no one will like it. That could happen. But if you understand the timeless steps that went always into this game, from publishing Marvel, like 50s till 90s, if you study like what you need to do, you need to make a spectacular product, which you are a consumer and I am consumer. And if I look into this comics and I look at this and right now I'm not impressed, I'm not buying this, I'm putting it back on the shelf. Now I'm picking up the next thing because I am a guy, I'm drawn to miniatures, I'm drawn to comics, I'm drawn to Magic the Gathering, I'm drawn to story. I am that storytelling comic nerdy guy. I'm a lot more of that, but I am this. And now I'm picking up the Almighty Thor and I'm thinking, man, that's a cool cover. How much is this? And then we're here now into, okay, these drawings are cool. Oh man, I gotta have this. And Walt Simonson put everything he had so these drawings could look really amazing, really cool, so that it gives you a blast. So you need to learn the craft. Maybe you find a writer, but at least the pages have to look spectacular. Some of the Jim Lee stuff here looks also very spectacular, but some of it's a bit stiff in my eyes. Some of it's really cool. Some of the writing doesn't really fit my style, but you know what I mean? It's a product. And so you gotta have the craft, you have to have a finished product, and then you have also to have like exposition, marketing, sales, shipping, which could do a publisher for you if you're that good enough, or if you're not at that point. Like I'm not at that point, and it's also not what I'm seeking. Like what I'm seeking is like to make a great YouTube channel where the audience kind of relates to me and thinks, hey, that's a likable guy, he makes cool comics. And then I finish a comic or a comic series and I put it out and I say, hey, if you want this, look at these pictures, I made it, it's about this and this, you want to buy. And then I have to print it, I have to ship it, or maybe I could also delegate that work. But you see, it's a lot to understand. But again, to that Jim Lee stuff, if you're older than 20 or older than 30, or if you're even older than 40, that's what I'm gonna do in the thumbnails. Jim Lee made it young. You suck, but not forever. It only means you haven't yet learned the skills you need. If I could, or if like Jim Lee or Frank Miller could dump his knowledge into your brain, like in the Matrix, where Neo just needs to have the download for how to fly a helicopter, and he goes in and then zip, he got it, and then he can fight Kung Fu. Or if you had that, if you would know which steps to take to get fit or to make a comic or to get rich, and if you had a plan that suited your intrinsic motivation and not shoulds and other stuff which you have to force yourself against, then you could make it too. Again, I'm a bit all over the place, but let me go at least into Herman Huppan. But now let's take a bit like, well, Jim Lee and Greg Capullo. I know Greg Capullo was also like he needed to get a job, but he was good at drawing, and he asked his mother, "Can I stay 1 year at home?" I think he got a job somewhere else, and then he just said, "Mother, let me try this. I wanted to apply to Marvel. If you give me a year, after a year, I'm gone, and I think I can make it." And so Greg Capullo and Jim Lee had something that you might also need, like Jim Lee, again, Korean background, but I think that's really like the hustle and grind mentality. I don't say you wake up and you work it all day, but you definitely have to allocate time into this comic making or comic drawing crop so that it can grow into something that might feed you, might feed your soul and your body and your lifestyle. And I heard that Jim Lee put in tons of work, tons of studies, hours, all-nighters. I know that Greg Capullo sometimes drew a really great page for Spawn. His wife came in and she said, "Man, that's such an amazing page. Don't you want to come down, eat dinner?" And then he said, "Honey, something's not right about the page." And he took it and he just destroyed the page and made it again, like a whole day's work, because he knew that his work now will pay or represent his how do you say it? Like if he I always I almost can't remember that Greg Capullo didn't deliver, but like Greg Capullo knew that if he could keep up a great show, great pencils, great drawings, he always would be sought after. That's the word. Like always a man in need, always wanted by his fans, and he saw comics as like cinema. And also the Jim Lee stuff, also Walt Simonson. I can also imagine Jim Lee at the end. This book's this is like X-Men, the new X-Men. Like I think they were watching 90s movies and TV shows, and maybe they took a lot out of these shows too. So you know what I mean? The work ethic, the mentality, and then also we're talking about Jim Lee, Greg Capullo, Walt Simonson. These people are not, or at least in the Marvel days, they didn't ink themselves. I mean, maybe Greg Capullo then did later on. I mean, I think he's able. Everybody who draws, I think, is also able and capable to ink himself. But this is like a business. They only make the pencils, so they're like directors, directing the eye, constructing things, taking what the writer told them we would see, and then they make it on the screen. It's like directing and also being the cameraman, which is a hell of a lot of work, because you have to make it visually appealing, sexy. All the babes in at least Jim Lee's X-Men are visually stunning. He always keeps this, let's put it here, like as you can see, this looks already amazing, because like he has background, midground, foreground. There's always something going on. I mean, okay, this is a 90s comics, but you know what I mean? There is definitely something good here, something sexy. I mean, just this panel alone is enough, and you're already sold. Look at this. This is borderline. Hui. But yeah, it's great stuff. And now we come how you can do this, like inks, the angry. Well, that's what I wanted to talk. Also, like they're just and not just penciling. The inker gives them their life. I guess we will talk one day about inks, and also Dan Green, and how Mark Silvestri and Adam Kubert. Like they made the pencils, but then Dan Green and other inkers put ink on that. Somebody else puts color on that. But I guess we go now to Herman Huppan. So later in life, he made it. I don't know if he has family. If you are later in life, the older you get, the more responsibilities compound on you. So it's normal that you feel that you have less time, or maybe you have a lot of time on your hand, but you don't know where to start. If you're older, don't be discouraged, because all you need to succeed are the skills you really need. That are the skills to put on the page what you imagine. And these can be learned. And I think that Herman Huppan or Mike Mignola or Jim Lee or even Adam and Andy Kubert, I mean, they learned their craft, how to draw. That's your first starting point. Maybe anatomy, figures. You look at other comics, other pages. Look how they put their stuff together. I will show you this in a second. I mean, this is not sharp. It's not clear, but you can see like the composition here, like the tree, the rider in the front. This is Herman Huppan, and I think this is maybe from or for a Corto Maltese, because like this looks like the Monaco from that comic book. So you know what I mean? You have a sensibility as your artist, and you look at other art, and to study and craft your own art, you look what you like and you try to distill what you need. And once you've done that, you're now ready to kind of do your own thing. And I think that's how everybody does. You play the cover band for so long, and you start then to implement what you've seen. The next point, and that's a bit the cheesy point, but that's I guess where it's moving. I usually see something online about growing your business or improving your health, or you know what I mean, some skill you want to learn, and then at the end, after all the stuff that it's given, the mentor always say, oh, sign up to my program or to my free program, or give me your email, or buy this or that. And it's not the same with me, not yet, because I have no finished program right now. In the future I might do that, because like I want to teach, but I also want to sell my comics. But yeah, let's talk about mentors. That will be a thumbnail, mentors. So if you want something and you don't know how to do it, it's definitely a good thing to seek out knowledge in the form of books. Well, I have there Company of One by Paul Jarvis, and I think the things, I haven't read the book yet fully, but I think what he's saying is like, you make it sustainable for yourself, like me painting something like this, or for me recording this video, putting it up on the internet, selling products or services, and earning a living through that, and then also having a scalable business. Because like if this video will be watched by 1,000 people, and I have something in a link down below, like a Patreon or t-shirt or logos I sell on t-shirts, or products like a game or comics, chances are that a few percent will buy, and the more clicks it gets, you know, you get the whole idea. Like you have an audience, you have a product. What I've learned, if the product is really awesome, like the painting behind me is, I would call it good, but it's not yet there. It's also not finished. But if I could if I had the capacity to really make a really awesome painting, the probability of it selling itself because it's so good, or a print, is really high, because you see it and you say, okay, I want it, I don't care, take my money. Isn't that the meme? And that's the goal, to not try to convince somebody, but to be just so awesome, so good they can't ignore you. I guess that's also another book you might want to check out. And yeah, so this is the number 6, and then the number 7. I'm now closing this video, and this is where I now start to say at the end or of the beginning of my videos, if you want to support me, I have a link down below. It's a Patreon. Right now it's only set up for comics, but in a few days I will maybe update it to also that you can support this YouTube channel, and or you might want to take lessons or something like that. And that's pretty much it. So a bit all over the place, but if you want to take this away, if you don't made it early, it doesn't mean nothing. Does it mean you're behind? Yes, but the only thing it means when you're not where you want to be is you don't have the skill yet. That doesn't mean you suck and you're stuck forever. It just means you don't have it yet. Definitely, like if you want to run a marathon and I have no legs, might be bad, but I think there's even like how do you say, like in German it's called Prothesen. And then there's the Paralympics. So, and then even if you say, oh, I'm too old to run that, then I guess there's definitely also something in your age bracket. And if stuff you want to do doesn't exist, you can always be the first person to create it. So I guess sky's the limit, and we see us in the next video.